It's called Miniwa here on Joy 99.7 FM. So let's get talking about a very delicate issue, childhood cancers. And our drive doctor, Dr. Yao Safo, is here. He's the CEO of Medicas Hospital. Our MTN Drive Chat is proudly brought to you by MTN. Welcome to the new world. There are things you know and things you don't know. Well, you might not know how to go about everything, but the internet definitely has solutions for you and has so much video content you can learn from, work with, and play with. Well, enjoy amazing video bundle offers this iFest to stream or download your best video content on YouTube, MTN Play, and more. This is the deal. Dial *138*1# for your video bundle offers. And guess what? You can also enjoy high-speed video streaming services on MTN Fiber Broadband. Yeah, join the iFest trail and discover a world of endless possibilities everywhere you go. Proudly brought to you by MTN.
Joy 99.7 FM.
Award-winning radio program, Drive Time on Joy with Lexis Bill.
3 of the 6 childhood killer diseases.
Childhood killer disease. We have commando. Two more. We have jet lee and we have tompo.
They're all diseases.
Killer disease.
What is MTN?
Mission to Nation.
What is the full name for MTN?
MTN. Network, movie, everywhere you go. MTN is everywhere you go.
So what is the full name for MTN?
MTN. Metro Transport Network.
What is the full name for MTN?
Mobile Nation Transfer.
What is the full name for MTN?
Mobile money transmission.
What's the full name for MTN?
What I know is M stand for man and N stand for national.
What about the T?
Telecom.
I say Uchantra say Eve. Dr. Asafo, how are you doing, man?
I'm good, Kwame. How are you?
Oh, by grace, I'm well. We thank God.
M for man.
M for man. Yes. Then he jumps straight to N. He's a national. Anatina. Okay, so students and school children the world over generally begin or go back to school in the month of September. Now, September does officially has become an education month. It's therefore in order that our back to school fair begins on Friday, September 7th, all through to September 9th, 2018. Now, everything your child and even mature students need to go back to school will be on display under one roof at the Providence Event Center, adjacent Auto Chill. And this is put together by your ever-caring education partner, your family partner, and Superstation. Joy 99.7 FM with our friends at Republic Bank, Nataraj, MTN, Pepsi. Yeah, it's going down. So, you're the center of everything we do, and we're glad that we're making back to school this year also easy by saving you the stress of running around town, trying to pack items, moving from place to place, finding the stuff that you would need for school. There's a lot of traffic in town, and so you need a lot of time to do all the shopping. But we're making sure we have everything under one roof for you. We've got you covered. So take advantage of the opportunity and save yourself the hustle. Now, as this is ongoing, it's also important to note that September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Okay? I don't know whether you know that, but yes, it is. September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Well, it's important and critical that as we prepare for our children to go back to school, we also aware of some of the free radicals that can affect them and pose a threat to their lives. So this month we're dedicating our time with the Drive Doctor, that is every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. to get some in-depth knowledge and education on childhood cancers. Doctor, good to know that you're also helping us with some information. Welcome once again.
Thank you.
It was quite scary for me to learn that about 300,000 children die from childhood cancers annually. Wow, that's serious. That's some scary statistics there. do we know what accounts for this? Are there some common cancers that attack children? Let's get some education on childhood cancers. And I know there's even an event that's going to be happening pretty soon.
Absolutely.
If you can give us more details on that.
Yes. So on the, I think the 9th of September, we're going to launch there'll be the grand launch of the Lifeline for Childhood Cancer in Ghana. It's an NGO been set up by one of my teachers, former teachers. She is a pediatric oncologist.
Okay.
She deals in childhood, cancers, and they're launching this foundation. Actually, the chief patron would be the First Lady, Rebecca Akufo-Addo.
Okay, I think one of the other patrons should be Mr. Gustav Siale, who's the former MD of Ghana Reinsurance, because he mentioned it to me.
Well.
Yeah.
Good.
Mr.
So the
Gustav
venue is the
Siale.
Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons.
Okay.
Red Runabout.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's Sunday, 9th September. The time is 4 p.m.
Okay.
So
that's a Sunday.
Just a Sunday.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll give you more information, and I'm sure after our discussion today, we'll all realize how important it is for us to focus on cancers that unfortunately afflict children.
Okay. Good stuff. So let's talk more about childhood cancers.
Right. So, like you started the conversation by giving us some statistics. Yes, 300,000 children globally are diagnosed with cancer, every year. That's a huge number. This is a global picture. But in Ghana, since we don't have, up-to-date, registries covering the whole country, there are actually only 2 centers in this country that have a proper setup, to treat childhood cancer. So that's where they collect the data, the Kolebu Teaching Hospital and then the Konfanochi Teaching Hospital.
Okay.
So what we have are projected figures. So in Ghana, it is projected that 1 in 500 children will be affected by age 15. 1 in 500 children would be affected by one form of cancer or the other by age 15. And with our population at the last census of about 24 million, then we would expect that about 1,000 children below the age of 15 will be affected yearly, every year. So if you look at that 300,000 figure for representing the global number, then in Ghana, what we are projecting is about 1,000 when we talk about children below the age 15. And over 70% of the cancers presented in Ghana are treatable if detected early. Okay. So again, in our discussion, I'm going to talk about what I refer to as the early warning symptoms and signs. Most of the time, it's easy for all of us to fall into that trap of thinking, children are a healthy bunch of individuals, bundles of joy, growing, they've got their full potential, ahead of them. But unfortunately, children are bedeviled with the same, health challenges that, adults face. And last week, Saturday, there was a very sorrowful story told on Home Affairs. A woman who lost her, I think, teenage daughter, to a type of childhood cancer we call osteosarcoma, after many months of battling with it. And if you listen to the story about how they struggled to identify the early signs and symptoms, then it was a bit difficult. So, Lexis, what are the common types of cancers that we see in children in Ghana? And we are going to limit ourselves to up to 12 years. That's the age range.
Okay.
Well, current data from the Kolebu Teaching Hospital shows that a group of cancers we call the lymphomas. Lymphomas are number one. They form about 37% of all the patients or the caseload. Lymphomas are cancers that affect what we call the lymphatic system. Okay. The lymphatic system in the body is involved in protection, if you like, where you have your immune system, operating. So imagine if you have a cancer that affects your ability to protect yourself against infections and so on and so forth. Then it leaves you wide open and you are susceptible to infections. So lymphomas are the biggest group. Then number two, you have what we call the leukemias. leukemia. Most people would have heard about leukemias. Well, leukemias is a type of cancer that affects some type of blood cells. We call the white blood cells.
Right.
Right. So in your blood, you have three main cells: red cells, white blood cells, and then what we call platelets. Well, the white cells are primarily responsible for infection control as well. So sometimes when you have a leukemia, it means you have a lot than the normal of white cells in your blood. And these are abnormal white cells as well. Because somebody would think that, oh, since these white cells are protective, well, if I have a lot, then it's okay. No, we don't want you to have too much. But secondly, these cells are abnormal in terms of their structure and in terms of their function, and they are also immature. So leukemia is a cancer that involves the white cells. That's number 2. Number 3, the third type of cancer that we see are the eye cancers. Very, very strange. Most of the time when we talk about cancer, we never hear about the eye cancer. Specifically, there's a type we call a retinoblastoma. Retinoblastoma. So it affects the retina. The retina is the plate on which images are formed so that we can all see. So before the era of digital images, I mean, you take a picture, you go to the studio, and then they have to wash it on a film. So the retina, you can view it as that plate that forms images that allows all of us to be able to see.
Yeah.
So if you've got a cancer that affects the retina, then it leads to blindness. So about 12% of all the caseload are eye cancers. And then number 4 are the kidney cancers. We've got one we call a Wilms tumor. A Wilms tumor. It's a cancer that can affect one or both kidneys. And they form about 9%. So these are like the top 4. Lymphomas, leukemias, retinoblastomas, and then kidney cancers, Wilms tumor. These are the 4 main cancers that are seen in children. There are other types, but they are not seen with the levels that frequency that we see with the 4 that I have mentioned. So
okay, good. What then are the causes of a cancer in a child?
Big question. Generally, when it comes to cancers, there's still a lot that we need to know in the scientific and in the medical community. So the exact causes are not known for a lot of them. For a few of them, we are picking up what we call risk factors or associations. So generally, when we talk about cancers, the first factor that we want to look at are genetic mutations. Genetic mutations, meaning something's gone wrong with the gene. So when we talk about genes, we've got a certain code in all genes. We usually use alphabets to represent this code. So the way we have a code, a PIN code, for your ATM card or for your password, to your laptop and all of that, genes also have codes. And if something goes wrong and this code is altered, then you can have an abnormal product as a result of the alteration in the code. This is what we mean by the genetic mutations. And about 5% of all cancers in children are caused by an inherited genetic mutation. This is very important. When we say inherited, it means if the mutation occurs in me, the parent, I can pass it on to the unborn, and then they develop a cancer.
Okay.
So that's a bit dangerous. So when we talk about the eye cancers, for example, the retinoblastoma I mentioned earlier, there is a gene we call the RB1 gene, retinoblastoma 1 gene, that undergoes a mutation, and this mutation can be passed on. So you may have a hereditary condition where you have this type of cancer showing up in each generation in that particular family. There are other genetic problems that can also increase the risk of developing a cancer. Most people would have heard about Down syndrome. So when we talk about Down syndrome, you have an extra copy of a particular chromosome. All of us have 23 chromosomes, pairs. So everybody has a pair of each of the 23. But when it comes to Down syndrome, you have an extra copy of the 21 chromosome. We've realized that all people with this particular condition, and we tend to see it in women who have children above 35 years, they are at an increased risk of producing children with this particular type of genetic problem. In Down syndrome, they have a 10 to 20-fold increase in the lifetime risk for developing a leukemia. So if you compare children with Down syndrome as against children who don't have Down syndrome, then we tend to see leukemia, which is a cancer involving the white cells, a lot more in people with this particular genetic aberration. Again, some chemicals are known to increase your risk of developing a childhood cancer. So exposure, prenatal exposure to pesticides. So the woman is pregnant and then she's working on a farm. And sometimes, like this, if you go to some of these rural areas and you see the way they farm, they've introduced these chemicals there, but they don't take the necessary precautions. They just put that knapsack on their back and then they go around spraying. They don't have any nose protection. They haven't mixed it in the right quantities and so on and so forth. So this sometimes leads to this exposure of pregnant women, to some pesticides. So this is also an identified risk factor. There are some infections that also predispose to the development of cancers. So a few weeks back, we talked about hepatitis B, for example, hepatitis C. These are things that can also lead to cancer of the liver. HIV can also predispose you to cancers. And then there is also another virus we call the EB virus. EB virus. When we're in school, the way we used to remember it is everybody's virus. The E for everybody. It's so ubiquitous. It's around. Almost everybody has this virus in them. So we call it EBE, everybody's virus. But the real name is Epstein-Barr virus. So EB virus, for example, predisposes you to developing a type of lymphoma if you develop malaria on a regular basis. So this virus interacts with the malaria parasites and then leads to the development of a certain type of lymphoma.
Okay.
We call it Burkitt's lymphoma. So infections, chemicals, and some genetic mutations are the general causes of
the cancers that you mentioned.
Cancer.
Okay. If you have any questions regarding our topic today, you can send us a WhatsApp message on 0244340437. If you're on Twitter as well, send a tweet in on the hashtag #DriveOnJoy, and we'll get the Drive Doctor to respond to that. But let's talk about some of the early warning symptoms and some of the signs of childhood cancers. I mean, what do parents need to look out for and protect their kids?
Right. So it is easy these days because of the pressures of work and all of that for parents, and I'm a parent as well. I've got 2 little boys. For us to devolve that responsibility of, for example, bathing the children, dressing them up, feeding them, we devolve that responsibility to others, to do on our behalf, because 5 a.m. we're out of the house. The kids are not up by that time. But it is important, and I'm going to talk about some of these early warning signs. You'd realize that you can easily pick up some of these things. The big caveat I'm going to give is that there are so many other disease entities that may give you some of these things. So they are not directly related to cancers. So the first thing I want to talk about are eye signs. Eye signs. If you notice that your child has a squint, get a doctor to see. I remember when we were growing up, unfortunately, as a kid at that time, we would make fun of people who had squint. I think we've got this derogatory term we use for them, because they are looking at you, but then their eye is in another direction, So you think that they are looking in the opposite direction, but they're actually looking at you. So it's a deviation in terms of the eye. So that's a squint. Like this, if you realize sometimes if you take a picture, you see a red spot in your eye, and you get very pissed off with the photographer. Say, I will try it. There's this red spot in your eye. That's actually the natural thing. If you take a picture and don't see that red spot, and you see a white spot, it's a troubling sign. It's one of the early signs of a retinoblastoma, the eye cancers. So a white spot in the eye would need interrogation by the doctor. Blindness. Sometimes it doesn't just happen that you become as blind as a bat overnight. Sometimes it's a gradual thing. So if we pay attention as parents, you realize that it's as if your child is walking and sometimes he walks into things. Then you give them a small knock on the head and say, But your child keeps walking into a table, into a chair, into a wall. You should ask yourself, hey, can my child see? So that's how blindness sometimes it starts. A bulging eye, an eye that is protruding, should also be of concern, especially if it is one eye and not the other, which is bulging. So in terms of the eye signs, these are the things that I want to talk about. Next, I want to talk about lumps. Lumps in the abdomen, lumps in the neck, lumps in the armpits. So again, if you take your time to bathe your child, you may realize as you bathe the child that there are lumps in the armpit. As you bathe, your hand will pass over it. As you apply the pomade, your hand you may feel some lumps in the body. So lumps are important. The head, the abdomen, the neck, and then in the armpit. Unexplained fever, unexplained weight loss, unexplained bleeding, especially bleeding from the gums, unexplained patches in the skin. It's also a sign of bleeding. Unexplained fatigue. Children are always bouncing all over the place. They are full of energy all over the place. But if you realize that, your child is out of breath, and that was not how they were in the past, then it should be concerning. And then unexplained pale palms, pale fingernails, and then pale lips and tongue should also warrant a trip, to see your general practitioner. Aches in bones, aches in the back, and fractures. Most of the time, a bone will break under considerable force. But like this, I can tell you that I've seen someone cough and break his ribs.
Wow.
Yes. So we call these things pathological fractures. A bone is tough, or a bone is supposed to be tough, and it should take considerable force to break it. But if minimal force breaks a bone, then you should worry that there's something wrong with the bone. Lastly, let's look at the gait, how your child walks. If you notice any difference in the gait, if you notice difference in the ability of your child to balance properly, so we've all seen how drunkards walk. They're swaying in the wind, that kind of gait, lack of balance. If you notice a change in behavior in your child, you should be concerned. Don't just say, or something of the sort. Headaches, persistent headaches. So like this. Lastly, I would say seek help for any persistent symptoms. If you have any symptom outside of the ones that I have mentioned, which is persistent, it's gone on for 3 weeks, it's gone on for 4 weeks, you don't understand, then it will be a good idea to call on your GP.
Awesome. 0302216541. I'm activating the phone lines. If you have any questions on the topic, you can call in now and speak to the doctor. 0302216541. If you're on WhatsApp, you can send us a message on 0244340437.
Right, Lexus, you one important thing I need to mention, most of the time, in terms of these genetic mutations, we do not allow pregnant women to take X-rays. And it is primarily because of this particular reason, that radiation, from the X-ray machine can cause these genetic mutations.
The mutations.
So if it becomes absolutely necessary for us to take an X-ray in a pregnant woman, then we protect them with what we call a lead shield.
Okay.
But the trouble is that sometimes in Ghana, it takes 3 months before a woman even gets to know that she is pregnant. So they come to you, the doctor, in the first 6 weeks, which are the formative periods of the unborn, and you are not aware. They also don't tell you about it, and then you shoot X-rays unprotected. Oh. So it's very important for women. The moment you miss, your menses, it will be a good idea, to check on your pregnancy status, and always tell your doctor. Whether you go in with a headache, a cough, always tell your doctor about the dates of your last menstrual period. It may just jog his memory, to find out whether or not you are pregnant before he requests, an X-ray. So X-rays are very, very important, and I thought I needed to mention this.
Awesome. Thank you for mentioning it. 0302216541. If you have any question on what we've discussed today, please let us know. If you're on WhatsApp as well, 0244340437. Regards going out to you, Dr. Kwame Ave of GIMPA. He's very passionate about childhood cancers, and he's done a lot of work, even written a book. And so kudos to you, Dr. Kwame Ave. God bless you for all the work that you're doing in regards to childhood cancer awareness. And Green in Sotom is asking if leukemia cancer is curable and how.
Right. And when we talk about cancers in general, we are very careful to use the word cure. We'll talk about treatment, that they are treatable largely. There's an expression we'll use. We'll talk about 5-year survival, 10-year survival, and so on and so forth. So leukemias fall into that same category. The type of cancers that we find, leukemia in children, they respond pretty well to the treatment that we have available right now. But it depends on what we call the tissue type or the histological type of the leukemia. It's all not just one. So for example, in children, the commonest one is something we call ALL. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia. So it depends on the type of leukemia, but treatment is available, unlike leaving them. The challenges mainly are in the areas of early detection, late presentation. So if you look at it, there are only 2 hospitals in Ghana that are really equipped, for the treatment of cancer. That's the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. But these are also referral institutions. So the doctors and the healthcare professionals in the peripheries, in the districts, the primary care facilities, they have to be aware and pick it up and issue the appropriate referral to these institutions for the necessary investigations to be done. We don't have a lot of pathologists in this country who then help with the whole diagnostic process and arriving at a diagnosis. So these are some of the challenges, and that's why that foundation is being launched on the 9th. To make sure that we have the requisite, we resource our hospitals, we bring awareness to health professionals who work in the periphery so that they're able to pick up these early signs and symptoms, and then also create awareness among parents and guardians.
I remember the story of the cancer crusader, Mr. Danny White.
Danny White, yes. It was for leukemia.
Yeah, for leukemia. I think he died in years ago. 2007 thereabout. May he so rest in peace. He did a good work in bringing awareness to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At that time we just come out and he did quite a lot of work. Got a unit even set up in Kolebu.
Wow.
For that. But we can take it further. There are things like bone marrow transplants that we can do. That will present cure and all of that. But these things, you need a tissue bank. You need some kind of logistical support in the hospital to be able to do that, so that we can talk about cure and all of that.
I've got Joe on the line. Hello, Joe.
Yeah, good afternoon, boy.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. I want to ask the doctor, this cancer issue, can surgery move it completely for it to be successful? Because my boss was suffering from stomach cancer. After the surgery, 2 weeks' time, he passed on. Secondly, he's mentioning about when a pregnant woman goes to the hospital for the checkup, they don't have to use the X-ray on her. But are they going to ask the woman whether she is pregnant or not, or they will check to know if the woman is pregnant before they will check it? Because some people are pregnant, they may not know.
Right, so let me take the second one first. As part of the history taken, anytime any patient comes to us, we take a history. And part of the history, you do what we call the obstetric and gynecological history. So we always ask about your last menstrual period. And from there, we are able to determine whether it is possible you might be pregnant. So sometimes we don't even need to do the test. So it's simply the doctor needs to ask. And if the doctor doesn't ask, then the caution for all women is that do tell your doctor about your last menstrual period, irrespective of the complaint that you've sent to the hospital. He asks about surgery. The thing is, we have different modalities for treatment when it comes to cancer. Surgery is one modality. Sometimes we put all the modalities together. You'd have surgery, you have chemotherapy, you might have radiotherapy, and so on and so forth. So it's not just one. The difficulty is that sometimes the cancer spreads. So by the time you take it out, it's gone to the lungs, it's gone to the head, it's gone to other places. And that's always the main challenge.
Okay. Now, Nana, our last message from Nana says, can the left eye, right eye thing be cured in Ghana, and where? In both children and adult? I think
yes.
it's the squint.
The squint, yeah. So you need to see an ophthalmologist.
Can it be cured?
It can. They can work on it. Again, if they find it out early enough, they can correct it to
good stuff. There's so much we can learn about childhood cancers, and thank you so much for giving us this information. I'm sure people would want to find out more. Probably come over to Medicas Hospital. Luckily, Medicas has a branch in Medina, Firestone, just behind the SGSSB. Yes,
at Firestone.
At Firestone. So you can get the team there, but the main hospital is at Mampo Ekapim. Yes. Okay. So is there a number we can call, please?
Yeah. So again, if you want to reach us, then it's 0501 477 340. 0501 477 340. We'll always continue the conversation on our Facebook page.
Awesome. And kudos to the team at Lifeline for Childhood Cancer as well. Remember, the grand launch of the Lifeline for Childhood Cancer is on 9th of September at the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons. It's under the patronage of the First Lady, Her Excellency Mrs. Rebecca Akufo-Addo, and Mr. Gustav Siale is also totally supporting former MD of Ghana Reinsurance, Mr. Gustav Siale and the team. Good job that you're doing. We're going to be there on Sunday for this launch. Thank you very much, Dr. Yaw Safo, CEO of Medicas Hospital.
You're welcome.